The challenge is patience, and I think we're feeling it in NFT land a lot because of, the pricing and things of that nature. When you're gonna build something meaningful, if you think about Marvel or Disney or Nike, or could you imagine if they stopped at year 2, or if we decided to judge the brand at year 2? It takes time. Year 2, I was just starting to figure out how to make wine videos of the Garyvee brand, right? Or like the companies we work with. So, I think the way I think about it is you need to be relevant to people around their interests. You need to be in the places where their eyes are, and there's a lot of ways to go about it. And I think for me personally, I try to pay attention to where's the attention of the end consumer and how do I fill that with something of value. And I think that's a very big focus of mine, and a lot of the character development, the voice development, it just takes time. I read all the discords, I read all the tweets, and I'm empathetic for people like, where is this, where is that? And it's like rushing into brand building is very, very, very scary, and you see a lot of brands only live for a year or two. Like, what are the difference between Shopkins, which is like a 3-year phenomenon, versus the Smurfs, which is like a couple decades, versus Spider-Man, right? Like, there's all these variables of like brand building. And so, I think it's about relevance, it's about different distribution forms, and as an emerging trend, and now all of a sudden, the video game vulture is on Twitch for 20 hours a day producing there's just so much going on in this brain and this organization, and it's real. We're really excited about character development. It's gonna require character development, right? There's only 2 things here. There's the community we're building through utility, conferences, virtual, this right now, and what happens going forward, and then there's character development. You can only win on it's valuable for its access virtually in real life, or you're one of the 1% and people fell in love with Patient Pig, right? The trading card thing, if you really think about IP development, I would tell all of you that the trading card thing, the compete and collect in the Series 1, has been a very sneaky good thing. Like, there have been many people who've entered the BeFriends universe through the trading cards without even knowing about the NFTs. That's an opportunity. So these are things that I'm excited to be thinking about.
Awesome, makes sense, thank you. Our next question is from Big136. They say, as an investment platform, podcast building has been an effective way of allowing us to discuss wider range of topics and content building and great exposure, but we are having a harder time getting big names. How do you maintain momentum? Is it okay to have smaller personalities, or does that dilute the brand?
The smaller personalities does not dilute the brand. Everybody starts somewhere. WrestleMania was the culmination of a lot of shows that didn't have sellouts in small arenas. Super Bowl 1 did not sell out. Just because you started small doesn't mean you end small, right? Wine Library TV had 86 viewers. The first guests were small. And the other thing is, ask more big guests to be on, right, Fig? Ask 100 A-listers a day on DM and LinkedIn to come and be on your show, right? So somebody's gonna say yes, and then that starts the beginning of bigger names being on your show.
This kind of happened to me just last week. What do you do personally when you face maybe a major setback with a client? Something happens, they end a contract, it feels like a punch in the gut. How do you move forward mentally? And then how do you move forward pragmatically to regain the momentum and keep pressing ahead? Because those hurt at times, but you've got to keep pressing ahead. So what do you do? What do you think through?
First thing I think through, and it happens all the time, is can we afford to not fire anyone? That's usually my first move. Ben, are you showing Beanie Babies on screen? So that's number 1, Doc. Number 2, I realize that it's completely a subjective call, right? So I don't take it personal. When I tell you I don't take it personal, I don't take it personal.
That's been hard for me already because part of me loved the client. Now I'm like, I don't know. I mean, so I don't want that in my heart, in my mind, in my spirit to have anything against them.
You shouldn't.
With that.
You should be grateful that they ever hired you in the first place. Don't become entitled. You're in control of that. Like when people in this community are upset with me, I take on accountability. I didn't have to say and get hyped in Discord. I could have just cruised into the sunset. I didn't have to issue tickets that created the ability for them to go down. VCon's a joke at this price. I didn't have to do that. Like, when people are mad at you or upset with you or do something that upsets you, take on accountability, Doc. They didn't probably want to fire you. They probably can save money in a way. They need to cut money. Maybe your team is not doing a good enough job in their subjective opinion. Just convert it from anger to accountability. And that immediately takes you on to the next chapter, because how do you move forward? You have no choice. You can sell the company, shut it down, or you move forward.
Awesome.
Right?
No, it's just that's what I figured you would say, because obviously 12 and a half, but that I wanted to hear you say it, and that's helpful, What has been the biggest setback you've ever faced in your career?
In this version?
Yeah, in this version.
I mean, we just lost 8 figures from last week. They decided to consolidate with the big company because our key executive left and the old guard wanted the old stuff. Monster hit. Monster.
Wow. So, hey, thanks honestly for everything, Gary.
Yeah.
Seriously, in all these years,
Always,
the
brother.
content, our interaction, I'm grateful. Seriously, and that helped.
And just to help everybody, because I see people reacting to it, first thing I did was like, can we afford to save everyone's job? It looks like we could-ish. And that's the biggest concern I have. Now it's, like I haven't thought about it since until this moment. Like I'm like fully tomorrow, like I can't, actually, you'll even find this more gracious. I'm focused on doing great work for them in the next 8 weeks so that everybody sees we're stand-up people as we offboard and try to set up the incumbents to be successful with everything we've learned. What are you gonna do, right? Look, it's the same reason I'm so confident about this project. I don't control everything, and I made missteps, but like, I have my whole life to make it good. It's fun. I also know I'm competing with a lot of people that aren't in that mindset. That should work itself out nicely for us. The world is more cynical and unhappy as a whole. There's a lot of global tension. Russia, America's political climate has been really difficult. Incredible levels of judgment in our society. Boomers this, Gen Z that, Republicans this, Democrats that, like just a lot of, this is what has me so motivated for VeeFriends, like putting good into the world. Like when I wrote that text, I don't know how many of you are on my text platform here, like writing that text this morning, I wish you felt the energy that was going through my body on like how I had to write that text. Jack, the world is more cynical. The world is more on tilt. The world's more angry. The world's more entitled. The world is more judgmental. And so the other thing that's challenging is navigating through cancel culture and unhappiness. It's harder. It was hard in 19, it's harder in 23 overall. And then in the micro, just being great at the tactics of organic social. And that's right, Matty H. That's why like I feel very obligated for a million reasons. I want to put more positivity into the world. I want this project to do well. I want it to do well for all of you. I want it to do well for my legacy. Like I'm very motivated. There's a lot to be motivated by with VeeFriends. And I also think it's a complicated world. Like I think accountable ant is just as important as compassionate catfish, right? We got to find that balance. I promise all of you that there's many days that I dream that my DNA was more like, I'm just gonna be a surfer and live on $14,000 a year. There's an awful lot of romance with that model. So, you know, a lot of ways to live life. Sleep is great, Matt. I sleep 8 hours a day. I just like being effective when I'm awake if I'm talking big game.
Very true. Actually, we have one more Discord question from Just JPEGs again. They were coming out with some fire questions today. And then we'll go into the live Q&A. They asked, what tools do you hope to build for VeeFriends as a business by 2033?
I'm not sure, but like Vaynerwatt was a big deal. You know, building the TV production company to then be able to JV with animation studio. Like I wanted to go for the jugular there. Animation is huge. Look, I think of this as a collectible brand and an IP brand, and I just have a lot of the tools I need to build need to enhance those realities. And then I love the fact that this is the blockchain, right? I love the fact that you can add utility at any time. Like the Mint Mink was not on anybody's radar, Series 2, and then there's utility. And one of the biggest mistakes I've made in running this is creating new expectations after delivering on the initial expectation. That was a huge, huge headache for no reason. So these days I'm trying to be more thoughtful because I don't want anyone here speculating on my words. I really don't. But I can't not also over communicate like I'm not done with VeeFriends after next year and VCon's done and all the access is done and it's done. Like, and I want to continue to like build things and you know, so I'm in it.